Cement, an incredibly important construction material used all over the world, traded in very large quantities, but with a very, very low unit price. So transportation costs need to be kept to an absolute minimum. So today we're looking at cement. Cement is the binder that sets and hardens to bind two different materials to get together, and it is used extensively in the construction industry. One of the main types of cement that is used is Portland cement, which is very, very useful because it can set in wet conditions and can easily be used to set underwater. And so it's very, very useful for construction underwater, such as oil rigs and drilling platforms. Now, in terms of the production of cement, cement is produced in cement factories. Cement factories, in order to produce cement, we need to have very, very high heat, and so obviously it requires very high amounts of energy. In fact, it takes about 30% of the overall costs of production of cement go on energy alone, and that's why we see a lot of these factories being built now in areas where energy is relatively cheap, certainly in the Middle East. In terms of production, we've seen a number of changes over the last couple of years. We had the two giants of the cement world were Lafarge and Holcim. In 2015, they merged in order to create a company which has production of close to 400 million tons per year. So they dominate the market. Now, that being said, the country that dominates the market is China. China has over 50% of the world's production at about 1.5 billion tons. So changes in supply coming out of China, changes in policy in China can have a huge impact on the price of cement around the world. That being said, when you're looking at the price of cement, it's a very unusual commodity because it has a very relatively low price. We're looking at about $40 per metric ton when it's purchased at the origin, and with a transportation cost which could be in the region of $30 or $40, we need to be very, very careful because the slightest problem in transportation can end up turning a deal that was profitable into a loss. Now, in terms of the different risks that we're looking at with cement, first of all, temperature. If cement has been loaded at a high temperature because it's just come out of the kiln and is loaded next to something else, then it can end up damaging the other cargo. If there is a lot of cement stacked on top of each other to a very high height, then this can end up compacting the cement. And strangely enough, it cannot be transported or stored with sugar because sugar can end up having a very, very negative impact, and even 0.001% contamination by sugar can make cement completely unusable. Now, one of the main problems that we have when transporting cement, which we'll be transporting either in bags or we'll be transporting it as bulk. When it's transported in bags, it's in 50 kilo bags loaded into 2-ton big bags. When it's in bulk, it is literally poured into the vessel. We have to be careful of the dust to make sure this does not get out and affect anyone's health. When we're transporting it, we have to be careful about water, about moisture content, because the worst thing that can happen is that moisture gets in and the cement ends up becoming caked, and this can actually make it completely unusable. So throughout the whole transportation process, from the production, providing it at the loading port, during loading, during the shipment itself, and discharge and storage, we need to be very, very careful. And on the subject of storage, unfortunately, because cement has a low price, we don't always put the right resources into storage. This is an example of a storage facility in West Africa. This photo was taken in about 2014, and simply because of a lack of maintenance, the warehouse fell apart, and this is cement which is being stored inside, which is obviously damaged. So when we're looking at cement, we're going to see a number of changes over the future. It is very, very closely linked to world economic output, world demand for new constructions, and as you can imagine, it is very closely linked to the prices of steel, because cement, which is used to create concrete, and steel are used very, very closely in construction. So this brings us to the end of this episode looking at cement. This has been Commodity Brief in partnership with Dukascopy TV. I'm Richard Watts. Please click back soon to see other commodities. Thank you.